Now we're going to get into some of the foods and herbs that help support the immune system. And the first one that I chose was garlic. It's considered a food by most, and it's also a botanical, of course, that grows. And we use the garlic bulb, which is the part that grows underneath the ground, sort of like an onion. Um, the actual bulb, and then all the cloves or all the individual bulbettes within it. Um, Garlic is every herb has energetics to it, and some people are more sensitive, some people are more hot, some people are more cold, and so you kind of like to know those energetics at times. But garlic is very heating, and I'm sure if you've eaten garlic, you know that it's very heating and drying, but it's also stimulating. And I list all the various right here for you. I list all what it does. It's a great antibacterial and fungal and parasite. Carminative means it relieves gas within the GI tract. And just, you know, not big amounts, but little small amounts that we wouldn't even hardly notice. It also lowers blood pressure and blood sugar. It thins the blood by doing it. Activates a lot of platelet. It actually inhibits a lot of platelet aggregation factors in that respect. It induces sweating, which is very interesting. And I can understand that too because it's so heating and drying. And actually, I know in a personal experience that if I eat too much garlic and I don't drink enough fluids, I can get very dehydrated. And it's just, everything in moderation, or know what your body can do and what it can't do. And also knowing your body biotype is very helpful too. It also inhibits tumor growth, protects the liver, lowers cholesterol and triglycerides, and it is an immune modulator. Now, what do I mean by an immune modulator? Well, something that is modulated is something that is either that it's, how can I say this? If your immune system is too low, it helps to increase its activity. And if your immune system is running on an overload, it helps to decrease it. So it modulates it, it brings it into balance, and it helps it perform in a more balanced way. So that's what an immune modulator is. So you might have a good B cell response, but maybe your T cells are low in number or they're not very responsive. So an immune modulator is going to help perk up those T lymphocytes and help you bring so that you have an even keel and function of your T lymphocytes. So there's a good example right there. Okay, so inhibits the adherence. What it does is it inhibits the adherence and gathering of pathogens to collectively produce a biofilm for formation of an infection. What do I mean by that? Well, what we found out is that a lot of these infections and a lot of these pathogens, they have to form like what they call a biofilm. It's sort of like a whole community, and it's sort of like forms a film in the area of the tissue, and that sort of like helps them to be more effective and to promote the disease process. So these biofilms. So the garlic actually inhibits the adherence and gathering of these biofilms. It's also great for GI tract infections and respiratory infections, especially viral respiratory infections. Interestingly, in the GI tract, it actually inhibits the growth of H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori, which is indicated with stomach ulcers and stomach cancers in an organism. And it actually inhibits their growth by 23.3%. And actually, I really should get the data on what specific therapeutic dose does that. But just a little tidbit to know that it does inhibit H. pylori growth. And it's great topically for antifungal things like ringworm, jock itch, and athlete's foot. And that's one of the things that I put in my antifungal cream for that reason. Now, it must be crushed or chopped up in order to release its active sulfur compound. It's actually converted once you chop it or crush it up. And its active sulfur compound is called allicin. And you must do that in order to actually make that active sulfur compound in order to have all its therapeutic benefits. If you want to eat it fresh, you want to use it fresh, and you don't want to kill it with it. It's very easily destroyed with heat. So basically, you use it fresh, or you put it in your cooking in the last 30 seconds, just to warm it up. Now, as far as preventative doses, it was actually interesting for me when I looked it up, is that I thought that perhaps 1 to 2 cloves a day would be good enough. And, well, any garlic is going to help your immune system. But the therapeutic doses were greater than 5 cloves a day of fresh garlic. Or you can use an aged garlic extract, and you would want to use 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams a day. And you would want to use that probably 1 to 2 times a day. And they found out that aged garlic extract, and it's actually it's an extract. It's garlic that's been aged in alcohol extract, and it actually preserves it, but it gets rid of the odor. So it's a wonderful supplement, especially if you've got some high cholesterol going on, and you've got some issues with say cancer, and you've got some platelet aggregation issues. It's going to, and also high blood pressure. This is like one of the first ones I go to when somebody has high blood pressure is aged garlic extract. And it's actually more potent and more anti-inflammatory than actual raw garlic. And actually, I found out too that it improves the gut flora. When they did some studies and they analyzed the gut flora of these the animals, they had a much more. They had an increased amount of, but they had a much more diverse, and that was the key right there, was much more diverse gut flora, which is, of course, that's going to help increase, and support your immune system. The next botanical or drink or food is green tea. And green tea is very drying because of its catechins in it. The catechins are very drying. And green tea is a very strong antioxidant. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about antioxidants here. But what I list all of what it does is it decreases platelet aggregation. It's a central nervous system stimulant, antibacterial, antiviral, anti-carcinogenic. So it's anti-cancer. Lowers blood pressure and sugar again. It's an immune modulator. It's going to help with your immune response, help modulate it and balance it out. And it's a great cardio anti-inflammatory and lipid oxidation herb. Now, what do I all mean by that? well, first of all, let me get into the actual chemical that does this. Green tea has a lot of polyphenols in them, and the one that's most studied and does the most is the epigallocatechin gallate, EPCG polyphenol, and that's the one that has the strongest antioxidant properties. If you were to drink 1 cup of tea, that's 100 to 200 milligrams of the EPCG in that 1 cup. So you drink a couple cups a day and you're doing really good. We're going to talk about antioxidants. Polyphenols actually halt oxidative stress by scavenging free radicals that would otherwise cause bad inflammation. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, when we metabolize our regular metabolism throughout the whole day, we produce these free radicals, and they're actually toxic to our bodies. So we need to neutralize them out, and then we can excrete them out, of course. So we need to neutralize them so they don't damage our bodies and our tissues. So that's what antioxidants do, basically, is they neutralize these free radicals. And the more, these free radicals are produced not only by normal metabolism, but, say chemicals in our food, chemicals that we breathe, chemicals that we put on our skin. I mean, just about anything, it produces free bad radicals. So we want to use as many antioxidants that we can in our diet. And green tea is a very strong one. It actually, what happens is that at low controlled levels, the actual free radicals at low controlled levels, they signal cell growth factors and cell adaptive responses. So in other words, they help to regulate the way cells adapt to things, and also the way cells growth factors. And this is at low levels. But if they get out of control, with a lot of, like I said, a lot of chemicals, or we don't have enough antioxidants or detoxification antioxidants in our bodies, then we can't neutralize all those free radicals. They're going to get out of control. And therefore, if they get out of control, then you have the signaling of the cell growth factors that's getting out of control. And you can have, abnormal growths, or you can maybe have cancerous cells growing. And then the cell adaptive responses are getting out of control. The cells aren't responding the way they're supposed to by all these free radicals all around. They're affecting the way the cells are responding in a very negative way, and causing a lot of tissue damage, and then of course inflammation. And actually this can be a long-term, and a lot of people do have nowadays. They have a lot of long-term inflammation, and a lot of it is due to this free radical getting out of hand, and not enough antioxidants in our bodies, or things to support our antioxidant systems within our bodies. And what I can give you an example for that is selenium. Selenium is a mineral used by our liver in the detoxification pathway, the glutathione detoxification pathway, That is our #1 detoxification pathway, to help detoxify all these free radicals. And if we don't have enough selenium in our body, then that pathway is going to be not fulfilled. It's going to be starting to get out of hand as far as a lot of free radicals circulating in our bodies, and then causing all that inflammation, long-term inflammation. So selenium, by the way, a good source of selenium is Brazil nuts, and you really only need 1 a day, and that would give you enough selenium to help with your glutathione system. So just an FYI, Brazil nuts. I'm going to have you look up other sources of selenium yourself, but just know that your body does need selenium. Now, the next is fermented foods, and examples of that are yogurt, kimchi, kefir, kombucha, a lot of K's here, miso, tempeh, which is miso is soy, and tempeh is, I believe it's a fermented soy too, or actually it might be a bean. Anyway, it's actually miso is fermented soy, but it could also be a lot of other fermented beans and grains. And then we have sourdough too. And sourdough is just fermented flour for sourdough breads and or crackers. And so all these foods contain probiotics, and those again are the good bugs and fungi that fortify and help protect our digestive tissues. These probiotics are also needed to make certain vitamins in our body. So they act like cofactors as far as making certain vitamins, like they know B12, for instance, is we need to have the proper probiotics and the diverse and the proper amount of probiotics to be able to make vitamin B12. So that's another important thing, is why we need to have probiotics. But they are, they fortify and they protect those digestive tissues, and that's the main reason why we need to use them for our immune system. 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our gut. Prebiotics are the food that the probiotics live off of. And this is the really important thing that we need to keep in mind, is feeding those bugs so that they become very strong and resilient, and they're able to do their job. And prebiotics are found in insoluble and soluble. I think I forgot to leave out soluble there on the paper, but they are found in insoluble and insoluble fibers, such as raw vegetables, fruits, seeds, whole grains, legumes. And then I gave you some examples there of garlic, onions. These are like some of the top ones: garlic, onions, asparagus, unripe bananas, dandelion greens, spinach, apples, peaches, watermelon, lentils, split peas, beans, including chickpeas, barley, chia, and flax seeds. Bran from oat, wheat, or rice. So it's the bran part of the kernel. Then those people that like to eat certain botanical roots, burdock root and the Jerusalem artichoke roots are very high in the fiber for, they call them fructoinulosides. They're high in those, which actually produce are the prebiotics for the probiotics. So again, all those good foods to feed those bugs. And then we should always incorporate, 1 or 2 fermented foods a day in our diet to help to fortify those bugs. Now, if you have had an antibiotic regimen, 3 antibiotic regimens will take your body, your probiotics, gut to recover. It will take 2 years for them to recover. So if you really have to take a probiotic regimen, if you really have to take one, you want to eat at least a couple of probiotic foods a day and take probiotic supplements at this point, because you are greatly depleting that the antibiotic is just wiping those bacteria out, and which does a whole slew of things in your body. But that's where most of our immune system is. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our bodies full of those good bugs. And if that means supplementation, then temporarily. And if you do go on say a 1-course antibiotic regimen, I would suggest that you take a good probiotic supplement for at least 6 months afterwards. And then eat your fermented food too at that. Now, another thing is bone broth. Now, I know this is like the latest craze, but bone broth is really good for your body and for your immune system. It contains proteins and amino acids which help to repair and build damaged cells. And of course, this is all what happens when we get inflammation, or if we get invaded by pathogens or viruses, or then we have all kinds of tissue damage or cells that are damaged. And so we need to help support the immune system by helping to repair and build those tissues, and that's what bone broth does. It provides the proteins and the amino acids for it. The glutamine, which is an amino acid, supports our inflammatory response in a good way, in a positive way. And glycine, another amino acid, supports better sleep. And good sleep and circadian rhythms are definitely influence the immune system. And that's a whole other talk in itself. These proteins, they form like a gelatin-like substance in our gut, which helps coat it, and it helps heal any disruptions in the gut lining. So say, we've got some issues with our gut lining, maybe antibiotic therapy, and maybe some heavy metals we've encountered, or maybe we have a long-term parasitic infection we don't even know. These are going to cause disruptions in the gut lining, and these proteins will actually help to coat and heal the gut lining. So they're really good for that. And then there's this, on an off note, there's these herbs called mucinalicious herbs, and again, they produce mucilage, which is that sticky, coaty substance, which will help heal our guts, and that's found in slippery elm bark, marshmallow root bark, and actually licorice root to some degree too will help our gut lining. I wouldn't suggest harvesting slippery elm bark. So slippery elm doesn't really grow. It's not really it's not a popular herb. You don't want to over harvest plants that aren't plentiful. So we want to leave what little slippery elm that's out there. But marshmallow root is an easy to grow perennial and it's easily propagated. But you do have to harvest the whole plant to use the root. But like I said, it's easily propagated. So those herbs might be used in formula for healing the gut. But that's one of the things that bone broth is good for is actually those proteins and that mucinalicious material. On another little side note is if you're going to make your own bone broth, which is great, and you actually want to use bones which are more from free range, no antibiotics given or anything, animals, you want to add a little apple cider vinegar into the pot when you're boiling the bones, making the bone broth, because what's that going to do is that's going to help release a lot of those good nutrients out of the bone marrow, out of the bone and into the broth. Another good thing here is foods rich in vitamin C, such as oranges, lemons, kiwi, strawberry, rose hips, guava, papayas, tomatoes, broccoli, snow peas, bell peppers, and red bell pepper is like one of the highest in vitamin C. You have kale, Brussels sprouts, parsley, thyme are among the highest in vitamin C as far as herbs go. Vitamin C, again, is another strong antioxidant in our bodies. And so we need that antioxidant power to scavenge up those free radicals so they don't produce damage, help support our immune system. But vitamin C is also needed to build collagen, which is needed to repair a lot of our damaged tissues, especially in the skin, the ligaments, the tendons, any kind of connective tissue, and the connective tissue lining of our blood vessels. So again, we're supporting our blood vessels and repairing damaged tissues, and getting rid of that inflammation, repairing the damaged tissues. We're supporting the production of the collagen connective tissue lining of our blood vessels so that we can better strengthen them and help to carry out all the necessary processes for the immune system. Okay, I have here, it accumulates in those phagocytic cells to help them produce their chemicals to kill the pathogens or gobble them up. Right. Antioxidants. They actually accumulate in these phagocytic cells, and then that helps to produce the chemicals to help lyse the bacteria. So it's actually needed in the phagocytosis step of the non-specific immune system. So you can't get enough vitamin C, and I always tell people if you're not a big person of eating a lot of high vitamin C, then I suggest supplementation of 2,000 milligrams a day for a normal person, and that's to help support your immune system.